Village. You're listening to KPCA LP Petaluma 103.3 FM and streaming online at kpca.fm. And now on to our next guest, Debbie McKay, President of Sonoma County League of Women Voters. Welcome, Debbie. I'm going to ask you the same first question. Is please share with us the mission of the League of Women Voters and a bit of history on the organization, as well as your personal history with the League.
Well, the League is celebrating its 100th birthday this year.
Woo!
Yeah, we grew out of the suffrage movement. And when women got the right to vote, and that was primarily white women who got the right to vote because people of color were disenfranchised. But once that happened, women didn't necessarily know about the voting process, were not necessarily educated about the issues. So what the League did is the League started doing citizenship classes and educating people about the voting process, how to evaluate candidates, how to evaluate issues. So we continued to do that to this day. This last fall, we did 9 city and town council candidate forums, and we don't support any particular candidates. We're nonpartisan, but we want people to know what their candidates believe in and what their priorities are. So this is a service we do to the community so that they get a firsthand look at who's running for office. And this is an exciting year because there were probably more women of color and young women running than ever before for these offices. And so we're really thrilled about that. The other thing that's new this year, we feel like a large segment of our community kind of has gotten forgotten along the way and not really invited to participate because English may not be their primary language. So for the first time, we're getting our candidate forums translated into Spanish. And all of these are on our YouTube channel. And so people can listen to the candidate forums the evening that we do them, but then afterwards, if they weren't able to attend that evening, they can watch them on our YouTube channel. And the other thing we're doing is pros and cons about all the various ballot measures. There's 12 different state ballot measures, and then there's local ballot measures, such as Measure O that we just talked about. And we want people to be informed about those as well. So we have done videos on those. Unfortunately, our budget does not allow us to translate those into Spanish. But we also, the League has a state organization. We have a national organization, state organization, and then local leagues. And the state organization has a website called votersedge.ca. It's votersedge, actually, .org.ca. And there you can get both a Spanish and English version of the information on candidates, the information on ballot measures, and in fact, you can get it in several other languages. So we feel that's a good resource for people to find out about the ballot measures. Another thing we did this year to educate people is we actually did a video about how to run for office. And some of the people actually who are running this year said that was really helpful to them because a lot of people don't know what's the process for running for office. And so we did a video on that, and that's on our YouTube channel. We also translated that into Spanish, has a Spanish voiceover. So we hope in the future, moving forward, that will encourage even more people to participate. So part of what the League is about is civic engagement and being a part of the community. So we also encourage people to serve on commissions, like the Commission on the Status of Women. We're trying to make people more aware of all the various commissions. The Board of Supervisors has over 100 different commissions and boards that people can participate in. And most of the cities and towns have boards and commissions that people can participate in. So we're really encouraging people to become civically engaged in the community. That's what our democracy is all about. It's all about us voting and being informed and participating in our government so that it's where we want to live. So it's the kind of community that we want to live in. And I think we're seeing more civic engagement. I mean, even going out and protesting in the streets is a form of civic engagement. Mm-hmm. It's letting people know we're not happy with the status quo, and it's having an effect. Most of I think all of the mayors have decided to sign a pledge to take a look at their policing system, both what their policies are and what their training is. So people becoming civically engaged really makes a difference in their community. Voting really makes a difference in the community. And part of what the League is talking about is that the election is about so much more than who's president. I mean, we tend to think of a presidential election and it's all focused on who's running the country. But actually, who's running the country is from the president on down. I mean, it's our senators, it's our congressmen, but it's also our local elected officials. That's who decides, how the money, our tax money is going to be spent. That's who decides what the priorities are in our communities. They set policy. So a lot of decisions that affect our daily lives are really made at a local level. So voting is much, much more than just who our president is. It's who's making a lot of decisions about our daily lives. It's making decisions about mental health funding. It's making decisions about what kind of health services people are going to get. It's making decisions about how much COVID testing we're going to do. So that's why voting is so important. And that's why we're so dedicated to making sure that people are voting and that they're making informed decisions. That's what we're all about. And the work never stops. We're not done. Even when the election's over, we're not done.
So how long have you been involved with the League of Women Voters?
I've been involved for about the last 4 or 5 years. What first attracted me to them was the forums that they did, and also what they provided information about the ballot and the ballot initiative. So I would always go to that when it was time to vote. I would use them as a resource. And then when I retired, I said, I want to get more involved in this organization. I use their services, so I want to get involved and help them do the work they do. Because on the local level, it's all volunteers. We don't have any paid staff. So everything we do is done by local volunteers, both men and women. We have both men and women in our organization. And anybody 16 or older can join. So we really try to involve the whole community in what we're doing through the volunteers that we have.
Thank you. So in that period of time that you've been involved, the 4 or 5 years, does this seem like a more exciting time than it has in the past? An exciting period? An engaged period?
It's both exciting and challenging. I mean, the COVID has changed how we do everything. So the social distancing has really made us rethink how we do our forums. We used to do them in person, but we had to do them through Zoom. We had to do them virtually. And, I always look for silver linings. So what are the silver linings in this experience? Well, we've all learned new technology that we're using for far more than just our league work. And we had over 4,000 people in Sonoma County watch our forums. So the 9 different forums that we had, there were over 4,000 people that watched them. And the one in Rohnert Park, was as many as 900 people watching that. Oh my. And before we'd have, maybe 50 people. I think our biggest was maybe 200 people. So we're reaching many more people. We're probably, even when COVID is over, not going to go back to doing them in person because we're reaching so many more people. And so things that we haven't never even imagined are the result of this. We had trained over 60 people about how to do voter registration because we'd go out to community events. Well, that's another thing we're going to have to rethink. How do we do voter registration now that we can't go out and participate in community events? So it's a challenging time to figure those things out, but it's also an exciting time. And like I said, I'm seeing more civic engagement than I have ever seen before. And I've lived in Sonoma County most of my life. I've never seen that level of civic engagement. I saw just today our registrar of voters put out the total people that had registered in Sonoma County, and it's over 300,000 people are now registered in Sonoma County. And the population of Sonoma County is only 500,000. And some of those people are not citizens, so they can't vote. And a lot of them are young people. So that means probably pretty close to the number of eligible voters are now registered to vote in Sonoma County.
Fantastic.
Which to me, it's wonderful. That means people are participating.
So is it too late for Sonoma County residents to register to vote?
Well, that's a yes and no answer. You can't go. I mean, something that's nice right now is you can go online to register to vote. But if you go online, it's going to be for the next election, not this election. So if you missed the deadline, which was in the middle of this week, it was the 19th, you can still go and register to vote at any of the polling places that'll be open on Election Day. There's going to be about 30 polling places. Or you can go to the Registrar of Voters office and you can register to vote in person, and you can cast what's called a provisional ballot. And what that means is you'll go ahead and vote with your ballot, but it won't be counted until they verify your registration. You know, making sure you're a citizen, making sure you say you are who you have signed up as. And as long as they can verify your registration, your ballot will count. So it's not too late. People can vote up to Election Day and including Election Day, and they can register on Election Day.
Very good. We're talking with Debbie McKay, president of Sonoma County League of Women Voters. Debbie, I applied to be a poll worker. However, outside of the email stating my application was received, there's been no further communication. In the meantime, though, I've been asked to be a poll watcher. Would you please share with us the difference?
Sure. Poll workers actually are employees of the Registrar of Voters, and they receive training about how to assist people with registering and casting their ballots. So the polls this year are going to be open a little longer than usual. They're actually going to be open Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And so for those 4 days, people will be working at the 30 polling locations. And by the way, you can go and vote at any of those 30 polling locations. So you won't have just one polling place. And they're actually going to have laptop computers where they can bring up your ballot and you can vote. Wow. So they're training people on how to work with this new technology and kind of work with this new process. So if you're a poll worker, you're going to be assisting people with registering and voting. If you are a poll observer, you're going to make sure that people are not impeded from voting. So you want to make sure that nobody is interfering with somebody going into a polling place or getting their ballot. So you're just kind of an observer to make sure that nobody's rights are violated. So it's a more passive role, and you don't get actively involved in the process unless somebody needs help on knowing what their rights are, or calling for law enforcement if somebody's trying to impede somebody from voting. Hopefully that's not going to happen in Sonoma County, but we just don't know. I mean, I think people are very emotional about this election. People have very strong feelings. They don't have enough resources to deal with those strong feelings. You know, you heard about the lack of mental health care in Sonoma County and really throughout our nation. So when people have, you know, troubled feelings, they don't have an appropriate place to deal with those. And some people may choose to deal with those feelings inappropriately. So observers kind of will get training on how to de-escalate a situation, how to have a civil dialogue about people's concerns, and hopefully get people in a calm state of mind where they're not infringing on somebody's right to vote. So it's using a lot of the same techniques that are used to de-escalate any troubling situation. It's helping people calm down, helping people express themselves, and helping people act appropriately. So it's a little different skill set.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. So revisiting recent circumstances, COVID, wildfires, recession, educating children, job loss, and so on, it would seem that many of these issues would cause a low voter turnout. However, instead, we appear to be seeing unusually high, potentially record-breaking numbers for early voter turnout in other states. Can you explain what's going on?
Well, I think that people know that there's a lot of really important issues on the ballot. You know, it's not just who's president, but I do think the presidential election feels very consequential to people, and so they feel like it's a very important time to vote. But I think people are really understanding how many other things are on the ballot and how many other important decisions are going to be made, such as who's in the Senate, who's in Congress, who's on a local level representing us on school boards, who's representing us on city and town councils, because a lot of the decisions they're making affect our daily lives. I mean, that's who's determining where we're going to have COVID testing and how much. That's who's determining how long our restaurants and businesses have to stay closed. That's who's determining when our kids can go back to school. Mm-hmm. So people, I think, are seeing how people at every elected level are impacting our daily lives because of COVID. Again, this is maybe one of the silver linings, that people are seeing firsthand all the decisions that get made at every level and how that impacts their daily lives. And so it's not something they can ignore anymore. It's not something they can say, well, so-and-so who's real politically active, I know they'll vote on that. I'm not too worried about that. People are realizing how much their daily lives get affected by these decisions. And so I think that's why you're seeing a higher level of participation. They want to make sure that the right people that reflect their values are in those decision-making positions. And they don't want to leave it up to somebody else, because somebody else may not see it the same way they do. And so they want to have people that are going to create the kind of community they want to live in. And so we're starting to see how many decisions affect our daily lives, because there's no place else to go is the other thing. I think, other people might say, well, I'll go on vacation. I'll go somewhere else till this is all over. Well, guess what? It's really hard to go on vacation right now. Mm-hmm. So we're stuck. We're in the midst of it. We're forced to pay attention to what's going on. If I'm forced to pay attention, then I might as well try and change the situation. So I think in a kind of roundabout way, people are maybe also feeling empowered. Mm-hmm. Like, here's one thing I can do about this horrible situation I'm in. I can at least pick the leaders that are going to make decisions about my daily life.
Very good. Thank you. Debbie, how may residents contact the League of Women Voters if they choose to?
Well, there's several ways you can contact us. You can go to our webpage, which is lwvsonoma.org. And there's a ton of information on there. There's information about how to get involved, how to join, how to make a donation. If you're interested specifically in volunteering, you can send an email to info@lwvsonoma.org, and that we'll pick up that email and we'll figure out who's the best person to talk to you. We have a number of committees. We have a voter services committee that's doing the forums that I was just talking about, the pros and cons, registering people to vote. We have another committee that does the community outreach, doing voter registration, and is also working on, we're doing something exciting. We're putting together videos to share with high school teachers and high school students about voting and the voting process. And so our committee is working on that right now, since we can't go out in the community. We used to go in the classroom. We also used to go in the jail. We used to go in the jail and register the inmates. And so I don't know if we're going to be able to get these videos into the jail, but we're going to at least put them together and make them available. So we this year had a centennial committee that celebrated our 100th birthday and the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote. We also have an advocacy committee. So the League is a political organization, not partisan, so we don't support a particular party, we don't support candidates, but we do look at issues. So a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, we did a big report about affordable housing and homelessness, and shared that with a lot of elected officials. So we do that. We take on issues, we study issues, and our advocacy committee is the group that does that. And that's also the group that looks at whether we want to support ballot measures. The board ultimately decides, but the committee studies the issues.
All right. Thank you. Debbie and Mary Frances, what words of wisdom might you want to leave with our listeners? If nothing else, your contact information once again.
To reach NAMI, you can call us, 866-960-6264.
Okay, thank you.
Or email, info@namisoco.org.
And then your website?
I had two thoughts since listening to Debbie about things I didn't say that I would like to have said. One is, it's important for your mental health, connect with somebody you care about. That's really important. And about men, statistics, research tells us that middle-aged men are much more likely to take their lives. They're one of the highest risk groups, not the only one, but that tells us something about men having a difficult time. So maybe women are it's much easier for them to say, I need help. We know that it's much easier for women to seek medical help. So that's probably very likely the same case with reaching out for help with mental health. So men need encouragement and support and connection too.
Thank you. Debbie?
Well, I would say that if people want to make a difference in their community, find a way to volunteer. Find a way to get civically engaged. Create the community you want to live in. It happens through all of us participating. It's not time to say, well, let Mary do it or let John do it. It's time for us to think about what can we contribute to our community, whether it's working in a food bank, whether it's working to get Measure O passed, whatever it is, whatever makes your heart sing, that's going to bring you joy. If you're having a hard time getting through the coronavirus, find something that brings you joy. And volunteering, helping others, brings us more joy than a lot of other things we could do. And so I really encourage people to take this time and reflect and think about, how can I get more involved in my community? How can I connect? How can I reach out? How can I make somebody else's life a little bit better? Because when you're making somebody else's life a little better, you're also making your own life better. And it will seem effortless if you're focused on the other person. So I really encourage people, take up the civic engagement and think about, how can I give back to my community right now? Be creative during this time of COVID. There are many, many organizations that could use your help and support right now. Excellent.
Do you want to leave your contact information once again?
Yes, go to our website, lwvsonoma.org, or send us an email at info@lwvsonoma.org, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. So again, we've been chatting today with Debbie McKay, President of the Sonoma County League of Women Voters, and Mary Frances Welch, Executive Director of Sonoma County National Alliance on Mental Illness. Thank you, Debbie and Mary Frances, for joining us on this maiden voyage of Women in the Situation Room. Listeners, you may visit the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women at sococsw.org or on Facebook at Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to tend to some self-care, as well as get out and vote, Sonoma County, and wear your mask. You've been listening to Women in the Situation Room on KPCA-LP Petaluma 103.3 FM and KPCA.FM. Thank you.
We could be giving up a chance to say something. We could be giving up a chance to take part. Giving up a piece of our future. We could be giving up a piece of our hearts. You can make it matter to you. Vote. You can vote. You can vote. Hitting rock bottom as the tower is falling apart. Give them money, the system can't afford it. Long way to go, but it's just the start. You can help them make it matter to you. Vote. Vote. contemplate. Time to act is getting shorter by the hour. You can help it, make it matter to you. Vote. You can vote. You can vote. Presidents, senators, and congressmen, don't let them fool you once again. Presidents,